Imagine a world where the sun reflected off turquoise waters, but danger lurked behind every wave. The Caribbean, in the late 1600s and early 1700s, was a place of unimaginable wealth and unthinkable violence. Ships laden with gold, silver, and spices crisscrossed these waters, carrying treasures from the New World back to Europe. And waiting for them were men, and sometimes women, who lived outside the law, pirates. This era wasn't about Johnny Depp swinging from ropes or singing catchy tunes. It was raw, chaotic, and deadly. Merchant ships could be overtaken in minutes. An entire cruise could vanish without a trace. For many, piracy wasn't a choice, it was survival. Europe's growing empires had created a world of opportunity and inequality. Sailors facing harsh conditions, brutal captains, and starvation often saw piracy as the only way to claim their freedom and wealth on their own terms. The Caribbean itself became a magnet for this lawlessness. Islands like Nassau in the Bahamas, Tortuga off the coast of Haiti, and Port Royal in Jamaica turned into pirate strongholds. These weren't sleepy towns. They were battle-ready fortresses, and chaotic marketplaces rolled into one. Rum flowed, guns fired, and codes of honor were created in the shadows of taverns and secret coves. Take the story of Blackbeard, perhaps the most infamous pirate of all. Edward Teach didn't just terrorize ships. He became a symbol of the fearsome freedom that the seas offered. With slow-burning fuses woven into his beard, he would light up smoke around his face, making him look like a demon rising from the depths. But Blackbeard's reign wasn't just about theatrics. It was strategy. His name alone could make a captain surrender without a fight, proving that reputation was as valuable as gold. Yet piracy wasn't romantic. Many pirates faced brutal deaths, either at the hands of the Navy or through betrayal by their own crews. Life on the sea was short, violent, and unpredictable. And while the Golden Age of piracy lasted only about a century, its impact on the Caribbean was profound. Ships were rerouted, ports fortified, and governments forced to rethink control over the vast, open waters. By the time the 18th century waned, the Caribbean had changed forever. Pirates who once ruled the waves were hunted down or absorbed into society, but their legends would live on, fueling fear, fascination, and eventually, the myths we see in movies today. The Golden Age was fleeting, but the stories it produced were immortal. When most people think of pirates, they picture flamboyant hats, eye patches, and treasure maps marked with a big red X. But the real pirates of the Caribbean were far more complex and far more terrifying than any Hollywood depiction. Their lives were a mix of cunning strategy, sheer brutality, and surprising moments of camaraderie. Take Bonny and Mary Red, two of the most notorious female pirates. These women didn't just follow orders. They fought alongside men in deadly battles, challenging a world that expected them to be silent and submissive. Dressed as men to hide their identities, they were known for their fierce temperaments and exceptional fighting skills. And Bonny once reportedly stabbed a pirate mid-fight to protect a fellow crew member, a reminder that loyalty among pirates was as vital as fear. And then there were the infamous gentleman pirates like Stede Bonnet. Bonnet wasn't a hardened criminal born into violence. He was a wealthy landowner who left his life of comfort to pursue the freedom of piracy. But wealth and status didn't guarantee skill. Bonnet's early raids were disastrous, and he quickly learned that pirate life demanded cunning, ruthlessness, and adaptability. It was a brutal education, and failure often meant death or capture. Pirates weren't just random killers, they were highly organized. They had hierarchies, rules, and even democratic practices that were revolutionary for their time. Captains were often elected, loot was divided according to strict agreements, and injured pirates received compensation. In many ways, the pirate lifestyle offered opportunities for equality and freedom that were unheard of in 18th century Europe. Yet, for all the rules, betrayal was common. Crews turned on one another over greed or power, and alliances could dissolve in an instant. A pirate's reputation was everything. Lose respect, and death or disgrace was inevitable. Stories of mutiny were rampant, but they were often overshadowed by tales of cunning and strategic brilliance. Blackbeard Roberts, for example, captured over 400 ships in his career without ever losing his nerve or moral authority over his crew. These were not fairy tale villains. They were real people navigating a dangerous, morally gray world. Each decision could mean riches or ruin, freedom or gallows. Pirates weren't heroes, nor were they monsters. They were survivors, risk-takers, and rebels who dared to live on their own terms, in defiance of the law and society. Piracy wasn't a glamorous adventure. Beneath the romanticized stories of treasure and freedom lay a world soaked in blood, betrayal, and unimaginable cruelty. Every ship a pirate attacked carried the risk of death, and every ally could turn into an enemy in the blink of an eye. Life on a pirate ship was harsh. Food was scarce, disease ran rampant, and injuries often became fatal without proper medical care. Sailors who were captured or caught by authorities faced brutal punishments. Hanging was common, and those who survived battles were sometimes left to rot in dungeons. Yet the allure of gold, silver, and exotic goods kept men and women risking everything. The promise of treasure was powerful enough to overshadow fear, pain, and the constant shadow of death. Take the story of Charles Vane, a pirate known as much for his cunning as for his cruelty. He was a master at capturing ships, but he also ruled his crew with an iron fist. When his men disobeyed or questioned his decisions, he didn't hesitate to punish them publicly, sometimes with shocking violence. Yet, paradoxically, Vane inspired loyalty. His fearsome reputation protected his crew, ensuring that few dared challenge him, and few ships dared confront him on the open sea. Betrayal was as common as the sea breeze. Pirates often turned on each other over gold, revenge, or survival. Mutiny wasn't just a rumor, it was a constant threat. One misstep, one moment of hesitation, and a pirate could find himself abandoned on a deserted island or thrown overboard to drown. The codes they lived by were fragile, maintained as much by fear as by trust. And then there was treasure, the ultimate motivator and the root of many tragedies. Legends speak of hidden chests of gold buried on secret islands, but most pirates spent their lives chasing wealth they rarely found. Even those who struck it rich often lost it quickly to betrayal, gambling, or reckless spending. Pirate life was a roller coaster. One day, celebrated as a hero, the next hunted like a criminal. This darkness, however, didn't erase the ingenuity and resilience of pirates. They adapted, innovated, and survived in a world where law was distant and the seas were unforgiving. They created secret codes, built hidden coves, and manipulated both allies and enemies to stay one step ahead. The danger was real, but so was the thrill, the adrenaline of living on the edge of life and death, chasing freedom and fortune in a world that offered neither easily. Pirates didn't just roam the seas blindly. They built entire networks to survive. Hidden coves, secret ports, and pirate-friendly towns became their lifelines, offering shelter, supplies, and even a sense of community in a world that wanted them dead. These were not random hideouts. They were strategic strongholds carefully chosen for safety and opportunity. Take Nassau in the Bahamas, for example. By the early 1700s, it had transformed from a sleepy colonial outpost into a pirate republic. Pirates like Benjamin Hornigold and Charles Vane turned Nassau into a bustling hub, with taverns, black markets, and fortified hideouts. Here, pirates could repair ships, sell stolen goods, and recruit crew members without interference from European powers. Nassau became a living testament to the ingenuity of pirates. They weren't just thieves, they were builders of communities in lawless lands. But survival wasn't only about location, it was also about rules. Pirates followed codes, often written down and agreed upon by the crew. These codes covered everything from the division of loot to punishments for stealing or cowardice. Injuries were compensated, and captains could be deposed if they failed to lead effectively. Unlike the rigid hierarchies of naval ships, pirate life offered a strange kind of democracy, a system where fairness and fear coexisted. Communication was another key to survival. Pirates developed secret signals, hidden messages, and even disguises to trick enemies. Ships were often marked with deceptive flags, and some pirates carried counterfeit papers to avoid arrest. They were masters of psychological warfare, knowing that reputation could win battles without firing a single cannon. Blackbeard, for instance, relied as much on intimidation as firepower, using his terrifying image to force surrenders and avoid unnecessary conflict. Pirate alliances were fragile but essential. Crews would band together for raids, then dissolve once the treasure was divided. Trust was earned slowly and could vanish instantly. Betrayal was punished harshly, sometimes with death, ensuring that loyalty, even if fleeting, remained a valuable currency. These networks of cooperation and secrecy allowed pirates to thrive in a world dominated by empires and navies. Ultimately, the genius of pirates lay in their ability to adapt. They survived not because they were the strongest, but because they were clever, resourceful, and unafraid to bend or break the rules of society. Their lives were a constant dance between chaos and strategy, danger and opportunity, a harsh reality that forged legends from ordinary humans. Centuries have passed since the Golden Age of Piracy, yet the legends of the Caribbean pirates continue to capture our imagination. But why? These were men and women who lived fast, fought harder, and died young. But their impact reaches far beyond their fleeting lives. They changed the world in ways history books sometimes overlook. Pirates challenged the empires of their time. Spanish, British, and French authorities struggled to control the Caribbean, and pirates exploited every weakness. They disrupted trade, seized treasure, and even influenced naval strategy. Governments had to rethink policies, fortify ports, and rethink how to manage their colonies. In a way, pirates were accidental revolutionaries, exposing the cracks in imperial power. Their stories also inspired a cultural legacy that endures today. The daring of Blackbeard, the cunning of Bonny, and the audacity of Stede Bonnet became archetypes for adventure, rebellion, and freedom. Over time, myths and legends embellished their deeds, turning real criminals into icons of bravery and independence. From novels and plays to blockbuster movies, the pirate archetype has become a symbol of living life on your own terms, no matter the cost. Yet beneath the myth lies a lesson in humanity. Pirates were neither purely evil nor purely heroic. They were products of their time. They sought freedom in a world that offered little, and they carved out identities in spaces where survival demanded cunning, courage, and sometimes cruelty. Their lives were extreme mirrors of our own struggles for autonomy, recognition, and opportunity. Even today, the remnants of pirate culture linger. Terms like parley, booty, and code of conduct trace back to pirate practices. Secret hideouts and coves have become historical sites, drawing tourists eager to step into a world once ruled by daring outlaws. Pirates may have been hunted to extinction, but their spirit, bold, relentless, and free, remains alive. Ultimately, the Caribbean pirates are a reminder of the thin line between legend and reality. They were humans chasing freedom, wealth, and survival, and in doing so, they etched stories that would transcend time. They remind us that sometimes the most enduring legacies come not from empires, but from those who defy them.